There has been a lot of talk lately about a movie based on the book by Bryan Stevenson called Just Mercy. Mr. Stevenson is an attorney with the Equal Justice Initiative, which seeks to overturn wrongful convictions of men, especially black men, who were sentenced to life in prison or who are on death row. The movie Just Mercy is about one of those men, Walter McMillian. As much as I enjoyed the movie, when I got home I rushed to my bookshelf to get my own copy of the book, inscribed by Mr. Stevenson himself, because the movie did not contain my favorite story from the book, the final story. I want to read it today. In this story, Mr. Stevenson has just finished arguing to secure the freedom for two black men who were in prison for a long time, wrongfully convicted. He sees an old woman in the courtroom, one he has seen before. He sits down with her, and she starts with her story. No, I'm not related to nobody here. Not that I know of, anyway. I just come here to help people. This is a place full of pain, so people need plenty of help around here. Bryan says, well, that's really kind of you. No, it's what I'm supposed to do, so I do it. My 16-year-old grandson was murdered 15 years ago, and I loved that boy more than life itself. I grieved and grieved and grieved. I asked the Lord why he let someone take my child like that. He was killed by some other boys. I came to this courtroom for the first time for their trials and sat in there and cried every day for nearly 2 weeks. None of it made any sense. Those boys were found guilty for killing my grandson, and the judge sent them away to prison forever. I thought it would make me feel better, but it actually made me feel worse. I sat in the courtroom after they were sentenced and just cried and cried. A lady came over to me and gave me a hug and let me lean on her. She asked me if the boys who got sentenced were my children, and I told her no. I told her the boy they killed was my child. I think she sat with me for almost 2 hours. For well over an hour, we didn't, neither one of us, say a word. It felt good to finally have someone to lean on at that trial, and I've never forgotten that woman. I don't know who she is, but she made a difference. You never fully recover, but you carry on. I didn't know what to do with myself after those trials. So about a year later, I started coming down here. I don't really know why, I guess. I just felt like maybe I could be someone, that somebody hurting could lean on. When I first came, I'd look for people who lost someone to murder or some violent crime. And then it got to the point where some of the ones grieving the most were the ones whose children or parents were on trial. So I just started letting anybody lean on me who needed it. All these young children being sent to prison forever. All this grief and violence. Those judges throwing people away like they're not even human. People shooting each other, hurting each other like they don't care. I don't know, it's a lot of pain. I decided that I was supposed to be here to catch some of the stones people cast at each other. Bryan writes, I chuckled when she said that. During Walter's hearings, a local minister held a regional meeting about the case and asked me to come to speak. There were a few people in the African American community whose support of Walter was muted, not because they thought he was guilty, but because he had had an extramarital affair and wasn't active in the church. At the church meeting, I spoke mostly about Walter's case, but I also reminded people that when the woman accused of adultery was brought to Jesus, he told the accusers who wanted to stone her to death, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." The woman's accusers retreated, and Jesus forgave her and urged her to sin no more. But today, our self-righteousness, our fear, and our anger have caused even the Christians to hurl stones at the people who fall down, even when we know we should forgive or show compassion. I told the congregation that we can't simply watch that happen. I told them we have to be stone catchers. So I chuckled at the older woman's response to the parable, and she laughed too. "I heard you in the courtroom today. I've even seen you here a couple of times before. I know you're a stone catcher too." "But it hurts to catch all them stones people throw," she said. She took my hands and rubbed my palms. She kept stroking my hands, and I couldn't think of anything to say. I felt unusually comforted by this woman. She put her arm around me and smiled. "You done good today. I was so happy when that judge said that man was going home. It gave me goosebumps. 50 years in prison. He can't even see no more. No, I was grateful to God when I heard that. You don't have anything to cry about. I'm just going to let you lean on me a bit, because I know a few things about stone catching."